أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد سيدنا وآله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي صدق الله العظيم. Inshallah, in today's session we'll be going through and continuing on Surah Baqarah, and we will be completing, inshallah, the ayah which gives us the keys to the Qur'an. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين صدق الله العظيم. Alif Lam Mim. This is the book in which there is no doubt, guidance for the Allah conscious or the Allah fearing. And this is the complete ayah now that we will be discussing, inshallah, today. So the keys to the Quran, just to briefly recap again. Allah Ta'ala in His infinite wisdom has placed certain requirements for believers to fulfill in order to benefit fully from His kalam, from His word in the Quran. And these requirements are absolutely essential. Yes, a lot of us miss out on them, and it's surprising how many people do. And that's in the thousands, in the millions. And the problem therefore arises is that we then dive straight into the Quran without understanding how to actually enter the discourse with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These keys are revealed in the opening ayat of Surah Baqarah, basically the first and second ayah. The first ayah literally being three letters, Alif Lam Mim, that's it, full stop. You get that circle, which is the symbol of an ayah, and then you get the second ayah with again the red, the circular symbol, which is the symbol again for the end of the second ayah. So they can be understood, as I say, as keys. You can use them as the rules or principles or guidance, steps to anything. I just use the word keys because it just seems appropriate, because it helps you to unlock the wisdom of the Quran. So it just seems appropriate in that respect. Once understood, these keys, that is, they should be used when studying any part of the Quran. So the idea is to take this ayah, these two ayah, and with you wherever you go, in any time that you read the Quran, that you study the Quran, and any part of the Quran, because they will unlock that amount of study that you're going to do at that time. So that's the importance of these keys. So the opening ayahs should be studied, and we should reflect over them before moving on in the first instance. So that's now. If we are studying the Quran from the beginning to end, as we're doing, inshallah, then what should happen is we should just study them now. And as we go through the rest of the Quran, they should be applied. Whereas if we are going to study an amount of Surah Baqarah and then move on to other surahs, which we might do that, in which case we should take these keys, always keep these lessons at hand and have them even summarized and keep them with us, so that wherever we go, we remind ourselves of these opening keys to the Quran, this opening statement. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Today we're going to be looking at this particular word, Hudan. Hudan, which means guidance, Hidayah. Alif Lam Mim. This is the book in which there is no doubt, guidance for the Allah conscious. So the word Hudan, guidance or Hidayah, is what we'd like to focus on first, inshallah. Okay, so in terms of the understanding of this in the tafsir of the Quran, having established the three keys for guidance, the ayah now declares the purpose of Al-Quran, guidance itself. Okay, so the three keys for guidance, Alif Lam Mim, the kitab, La Rayba Fi, no doubt in it. So having those three put down in our minds, we now come to the purpose of the Quran, which the Quran itself tells us what its purpose is: guidance, Hidayah. Al-Quran is the word of Allah Ta'ala. So therefore it's the sum of all knowledge. Allah Ta'ala's knowledge is infinite. He is known as Al-Alim, one of his 99 names and attributes. So meaning literally the one who is all-knowing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being all-knowing, gives to us his word, the Quran. The Quran therefore represents the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In effect, for us, it is the knowledge of all and beyond human comprehension. All of human comprehension. When I say human comprehension, I mean from the first human being to the last human being. Every single thing, every single human being has encompassed, and the jinn have encompassed. That is only a fraction of what Allah in his vast knowledge knows, to the effect that all that human beings know put together is like a drop of water into the ocean, and the ocean is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the Quran, the sum of all knowledge. However, its purpose remains guidance. So when I say the sum of all knowledge, it means all subjects that we know, subjects that we don't even yet have codified, have understood, have discovered. All of that is in the Quran, yet its purpose is not to teach us history, science, geography, mathematics, etc., etc. No, those things are all going to be mentioned, just as when an intelligent person speaks, then often in his speech he will refer to things, but as part of his theme. Now, when he refers to those things, it shows his eloquence, it shows his knowledge or the extent of it. However, the point that he's trying to make in his speech is what people have to focus on. The same principle here is with the Quran. Allah, being all-knowing, is going to be able to touch upon any and every subject, any and every aspect of knowledge in the universe, within and without of human comprehension. However, despite all of those subjects being touched upon, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's theme is guidance. Throughout all of it, it's guidance. So the primary purpose of the Quran remains, as it always has been, guidance, hidayah. By pointing out creation, however, what and how of creation, Allah Ta'ala asks us to further reflect upon why. So, for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points out, and he says in the Quran, do they not see the elephant, for example, or the bee, or the ant, or the spider, all the different creatures that are mentioned in the Quran, or the heavens and the earth, or how the plants grow from a dead earth, from the seedlings, and so on. When he points all these things out, yes, we can take that as a subject and study it and realize how seeds sprout, how a bee works, how a spider works, how an ant works. We can look at that, we can see what it is, we can define what it is through the study of it, and we can define how it works, how it functions. If it's a living creature, we can dissect it, we can look at the organs and the body and the skeletal structure, or its exoskeleton if it's an insect, and we can understand how it moves, how it works, and why, and what its life cycle is. However, by pointing all of this out to us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not saying that therefore we become entrenched in this, which is what the non-Muslim does. The non-Muslim starts to take these subjects, he removes the idea of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from it, and he studies these subjects as they are. And so it becomes a science or a history or a geography session. And so, and then they are further broken up. For example, science is broken down into chemistry and biology and physics, and then into, at high level, biochemistry, biophysics, and so on. So these subjects are made like this, and we become entrenched in them. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his guidance is not come into that. That is just the beginnings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us, look at these things, look at their working systems, look at how they're being created, look at what they are, learn what they are, define what they are, by all means, explore how they move, how they live, how their life cycles are, how they came about, by all means. However, once you've done the what and the how, now come to the why. And that's the problem with science, you see. Science cannot answer why. Science will tell you what something is and how it works. It will not tell you why it exists, why it is the way it is. That science cannot answer for you. That is where we start to go into philosophy, and in further to that, reflection, which eventually leads us to the realization that the why is because there is a creator who in his wisdom has created this thing, built it upon what it is, guided it unto how it lives, and therefore the why, the answer is clear, that there is a creator and is showing us that he exists and we exist because of him, and therefore we should devote our lives to him because we owe it to him. So this is the idea of the Quran in pointing out the different subjects, topics, and subject-topic matters. Not for us to become entrenched in it, not for us to become limited in it, but to understand it and marvel even within that, to marvel at the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a true person of Hidayah does, but then to move further and ask why. Why are these creatures made? Why are these systems made? Why is the universe the way it is? Who created it? Why did he create it? Etc. And then we inevitably arrive at the answer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This then leads us to second and third level of guidance. The Qur'an itself, as we spoke in the first series on Surah Faatihah, we talked about the three levels of guidance. The guidance which is for every creation, that is where the sun, earth, moon, stars, etc., animate matter and inanimate matter, living and non-living, all these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided them to be who and what they are, how they are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided them. From the living creatures like the bees and the ants and insects and the fish and the birds, how they fly, how they navigate, how they are able to use sonar, sonar signals, etc., to move around and understand where to go and how to return back from the point they came from. All of this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his general guidance for all beings. Then the second level of guidance is the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to the sentient or the intelligent creatures, which is mankind and jinn kind. That is not to say that animals don't have intelligence, they do, but it's a basic instinctive intelligence, and mankind has rational and emotional intelligence, and so does jinn kind. So to these two creatures, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now addresses them with a greater level of guidance, which is brought about by the Anbiya alayhi salam, the prophets, and by the kitabs, the kutub, the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, up to and including the Qur'an. So that is now the level the Qur'an begins at. It begins at that level. However, it points out the lower level of guidance by saying that, do you not see how the earth it was created? Do you not see how the rain falls, how the seed sprouts, and so on and so on? It does that. However, it remains at the second level of guidance, which is to engage the intellect of the rational, intelligent being. And as a result of that, the person can be guided if he engages his intellect back with the Quran as the Quran challenges him. Further from that comes the third level of guidance. And the third level of guidance is that once a person has accepted and engaged in and absorbed the second level of guidance and responded, then he or she becomes a believer. And when they become a believer, they become strengthened in their belief. And now they had reached the third level of guidance, which is specific and special for those chosen people. And when I say chosen, I don't mean chosen by Allah in the sense that they are a group of people, but they're individuals who have chosen for themselves to follow the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then increases their guidance, and they become at a higher level of hidayah, at a higher level of iman than everybody else who is intellectually or rationally understanding the guidance of Allah Ta'ala. Their level is the basic level, and the level of which is the third level, is the level of the iman and taqwa, at that level which is specific and special with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Further to this, it provides progression through the levels. Hidayah, guidance, has levels. Apart from the three main levels I've just mentioned, within the second level and the third level, there are mini levels, if you like, and they grade you up. So you could be on the second level on the first step of the rung of the ladder, if you like, or on the second step of the rung of the ladder, or the third or the fourth, and so on. And how many there are, Allah knows best. But we feel it as we progress in our knowledge and our understanding. We feel that we're better today than we were yesterday, for example. And we do this with knowledge and understanding through life anyway. But this is how Hidayah at the second level works. There are many levels, and we progress through those levels until we eventually come out of that and enter the third level of guidance with something that will be significant and specific in our lives, that will make us realize that we are now at a separate level altogether. And once we do that, then the third level has its levels of progression, and it allows us to continue up and through those levels. So we become more and more as we go through the life of the Quran, as we go through the understanding of the Quran, we become more and more conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in our iman, we have a greater level of strength and practice that comes through it, inshallah. So this is progressing through the levels of guidance of Hidayah. So that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Huda, Hidayah, lil muttaqeen. Huda lil muttaqeen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alif lam mim. Dhalika al-kitabu la rayba fi huda lil muttaqeen. Now we want to focus on the second word, lil muttaqeen. Alif Lam Mim in translation. This is the book in which there is no doubt, guidance for the Allah conscious, often referred to also as Allah fearing. And I will look into this expression, inshallah, as we now go into the tafsir of this, the final word and the final key in this opening statement. The fifth key is the need for the one who approaches Al-Quran to have taqwa. The fifth key is the need for the one who approaches Al-Quran to have taqwa. Approach in the sense to study, to benefit, to learn from it, to be guided by it. Now, taqwa is not simply fear of Allah Ta'ala. Many times it's given, and that's why I wanted to look at this expression of taqwa being Allah fearing. Because often that is understood to be fearing in the sense when a person is afraid of something. Now, we can be afraid of something, and that's a different type of fear to the kind of fear, if you like, that is required of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fear of a living thing, a dangerous thing, for example, a snake or a scorpion or a lion or something like that, that we are afraid of in life, that we can be scared of. That fear is not the kind of fear we're talking about here with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. That is a natural instinctive fear. It is a part of our survival mechanism. And so it's important we have that, and there's nothing wrong with having that. We are supposed to be conscious of things that harm us, but it's a very low level of fear, and it's a very mechanical level of fear, that scared of something, must escape from it, must avoid it. Once having escaped or avoided it, that fear dissipates and is gone. Whereas the fear of Allah Ta'ala is something which is not supposed to go. It is something which stays with you, but it is not something which reduces you to a bundle of nerves, so to speak, i.e. a fearing, cowering in the corner type person, which the fear of a snake or something would do. It's not the kind of fear that makes you run and brings up adrenaline. So that's why it's important to understand this. And sometimes when people describe it or translate it as fear of Allah, we have to understand what it means by fear, because the word fear in English has a simple meaning, which, as I've described, is to do with creatures and being scared of something. It's actually, the fear of Allah Ta'ala is built on awareness of what we owe Him. That's the kind of fear it is. It's built on awareness of what we owe Him. We become aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His greatness, what He's done for us, how much we owe Him. And then when the two come together, that what He's done for us and what we owe Him, then we develop this fear, so-called, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is not something which is, as I say, it's not momentary, and it has no connection with adrenaline at all. So taqwa is upon wanting to please Him, be devout to Him, to love Him, and want to gain His love and be fearful to lose it. Okay, so taqwa is a combination of all these things: wanting to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being devout to Him, loving Him, wanting to gain His love in return, and a fearfulness of losing His love. Okay, losing that closeness that you built up with Him as you go through life and you're developing your iman. So this is what taqwa is more accurately described as. And these are all components of it: pleasing Him, being devout to Him, loving Him, wanting His love back, and being fearful of losing it. Therefore, a muttaqi, that is a person with taqwa, only does what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the life of a muttaqi, or a muttaqiha, which is for sisters, the female version. Muttaqiha is female, and muttaqi is the male. Both are the believer with taqwa, who are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the basis of what I've already described. Therefore, the muttaqiha only does what pleases Allah ta'ala. Their life is devout within this. That's their life in a nutshell, if you like. There isn't anything outside of that for them. And even within that, the muttaqi is always fearful of falling short in effort, amount, or sincerity. So the muttaqi may do something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the muttaqiha may do something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's just take a very simple example: salah. So the muttaqiha, they pray their salah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Having completed their salah, They're conscious, they're fearful. Have I done enough? Did I do that correctly? Or was it wrong? Or was there something where I was distracted? Did I do all the movements correctly? Did I recite everything correctly? Did I forget something? Did I recite something a little too quickly? Did I mumble something? Was my mind distracted? So they think about these things at the end of the salah. Hence, at the end of the salah, we have the adab that as soon as you make the salam to the right and salam to the left, the first thing you do immediately after that is to say astaghfirullah 3 times. That we ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something which, whether we know it or not, we may have fallen short of in the salah. Secondly, we look at the amount we've done. So we say, okay, I've prayed Dhuhr or Asr, and I have prayed 8 rakah or 12 rakah. Did I pray enough? Could I add something more to it or not? Okay, we might sit down and read Qur'an. Did I read enough? Is there more that I could have done? So we look at it in that respect as well. So the muttaqi looks at whether he's fallen short of what he's done, whether he's done the right amount. And finally, he or she looks at the sincerity. Okay, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but was it sincerely for Allah ta'ala, or did I do it because it was just a habit, or because I had to, or because it was the done thing, or because everybody else was praying around me, or because it was expected of me? Did I do it for these reasons, or did I do it solely and sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And therefore there is a sincerity there, or there isn't. Okay, so the muttaqi or the muttaqiha is someone who not only does only what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but within that they evaluate what they've done each time they do something and make sure that it's the best that they could offer. And if it isn't, then through this sort of evaluation, it is a tarbiyah which helps them to increase the next time they do it, and increase again the next time they do it. So they're starting to perfect themselves over time, inshallah. So this is the state of the muttaqi. Going to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam now. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عليك بتقوى الله فإنها جماع كل خير. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you must fear Allah as it is the sum of all good. You must fear Allah as it is the sum of all good. So all that is good, taqwa, the fear of Allah, it is the sum of that. Okay, you must fear Allah as it is the sum of all good. Taqwa is the sum of all that is good. Okay, let's try and understand this hadith. Every act done upon taqwa is good. Okay, every act that is done upon taqwa, because taqwa is the basis, and if taqwa becomes the basis, whatever you will do, first and foremost, it will be good. It cannot be bad, because taqwa will not allow you to do anything other than good. But then it will be a genuine good, unlike the ungenuine or the insincere good, which is done by non-Muslims. For example, non-Muslims will do something good, apparently good. Let's give you an example. Caring. You have care workers, for example. Now, a care worker will go and into a stranger's house and give them tablets or their medication, or make them comfortable in their bed, or administer some medication to them, or spend some time with them, listening to what their problems are, listing them, and promising to do something to resolve that situation. That's a care worker. However, at the end of the week, that care worker requires payment. Payment for what they consider to be their duty and their work. That is not genuine care. Genuine care has no payment. So taqwa is that which we do without seeking reward from insan. It is something which we do without seeking any reward from any human being. Our reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, the deed is genuinely good. Every good act, conversely, is born from taqwa. So every act done upon taqwa is going to be a good act. However, every good act anyway that is a genuine good act is always born from taqwa. So if you're not conscious of your taqwa, but you did a genuine good act, know that there is taqwa within you. And so that good act that came from you is because there is taqwa within you. You just may not be conscious of it. So every act done upon taqwa is a good act. That is a guarantee. But every good act that is done anytime by anyone is because of seeds of taqwa within them. A muttaqi has developed taqwa Allah. A muttaqi has developed taqwa Allah. Taqwa Allah is taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he or she has constantly And this is not just momentarily, but it is a 24/7 type thing where every day, every night, before they go to sleep, the last thing they remember is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they wake up, the first thing that comes to mind is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the muttaqi or the muttaqiha with the taqwa Allah. So every act of a muttaqi is measured purely on being pleasing to Allah ta'ala. They do not look at it in any other sense. Is it pleasing to my wife, to my husband, to my parents, to my children, to my friend, to my neighbor? No, that is secondary. If it happens to come into it, alhamdulillah. If it doesn't, they act regardless. They feel first and foremost for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in essence, they only feel for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is this pleasing to Allah ta'ala? Is this correct before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this jaiz, halal before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this allowed and permissible by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I will do it. Regardless of what the world has to say apart from that. Simply and sincerely seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, Ya Allah, I am doing this as a matter of need for your sake. So that is how the muttaqi is in life. And everything that he or she does is measured purely upon this. Is it pleasing to Allah ta'ala? I will do it. Is it not? I will not do it, regardless of the state of the world around me. And for the muttaqi and the muttaqiha, no act is too small to consider for them. No act is too small. So simple things like you could be just walking along and you might see a banana peel on the floor, which is part of hadith about iman. That iman is such that even a person sees as a stone or a pebble or a banana peel, something that might cause discomfort to somebody who's passing by, and he or she will lift that up and put it elsewhere, remove it from the path, that it will not provide any discomfort for the person who's walking that path. That is a muttaqi, and he will do or she will do that little act, as simple and small and apparently insignificant as that, but for Allah's sake. And you see, that's the thing. If an act, even a tiny act, is done for the sake of Allah, then because it's done for the Creator, for the Almighty, that simple little act becomes great. Hence, we have many hadith talking about how someone who might otherwise be evil, might otherwise be bad, might otherwise be very un-Islamic, yet he or she does something very simple and very small and very insignificant, in fact, compared to the crimes they'd be doing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment takes that act and forgives them for what they've done that's bad, simply on the basis of small act. Why? Because they take that small act and they do it for the sake of Allah. And when they connect it to Allah ta'ala, it is no longer a small act. It is a major act. So a muttaqi person, a muttaqiha, are such people that everything they do has incredible significance. And that's why they take as the same proportional effort and consideration for a small, simple act of lifting a banana peel on the road as they would for going to Hajj or something like that. So what is taqwa in itself? Taqwa is not something that you do. Taqwa is also not the amount of ibadah that you perform. Some people think that, okay, if you do 10 rakats of salah or 10 rakats of tahajjud or 12 or 15 or 20 or half an hour or an hour of Qur'an, this is taqwa. It is not taqwa. It is an act of ibadah that you have done. That is what it is. That does not mean it's bad, of course not. But what it means is this is not taqwa. Taqwa is not described as this. This is just a measure of your ability, of your effort. It is also not how much you refrain from sin. So the converse is also not true. So a person who preserves himself is not going to commit a sin. He prevents himself from alcohol or from the attraction of a woman or the attraction of a man or the attraction of gambling or theft. This is not also a measure of, this is not taqwa itself. It is an act of goodness. It is an act built upon iman or coming from taqwa, but it is not what taqwa is. So, taqwa, it is a state that you enter into. It is literally a state of being, a state of consciousness that you wholly enter into with heart, mind, body, and soul. So it's something you become. Hence, muttaqi, a person of taqwa. Muttaqiha, a woman of taqwa. It is a state you enter into, and once coming into that state, it's not something, as I said earlier, which is based upon adrenaline or something that it dissipates after a while, after half an hour or an hour. No, it is a state you enter into and you remain within. And then you start to progress through the different darajat, the different levels of guidance as you go. So, question for everyone to address within your own time, inshallah. And by all means, you're welcome to send this to me as an email, and I will have a look at this and give you feedback, inshallah, as I have done previous questions on this course. How can you develop your awareness of Allah Ta'ala? Remember, awareness is your basis from which grows taqwa. Awareness is your ground within which the seeds of taqwa sprout. So how can you develop your awareness of Allah Ta'ala in your daily life? How can you increase it so it stays more in your mind or for a longer period, day by day by day? Question. So think about that and think about how you can do that. And it will be a personal thing because each person may be looking at it in a different manner to the next. Okay, so in summary, the keys to the Quran. We began with Alif Lam Mim, which is three letters that no one knows the meaning of. So we begin the Quran with that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the human mind, the chattering mind, the mind which is arrogant and full of ideas and notions, opinions, to zero. Brings it down to the ground because we cannot figure out the meaning of three letters. So it closes the chatter of the mind and opens the mind to reception of the guidance that is to come. Number two, respect for the kalam of Allah Ta'ala. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. That is the book. So I explained this in the second session about the grandness of the Quran, this distinct difference of the Quran to all other books in the world, its structure, its style, and there's much more that can be said. And all I could do is obviously touch upon it, inshallah. At other times, I will go more into this, inshallah. But the idea is to have that respect and awe for the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number three, La rayba fi, no doubt in the kalam of Allah Ta'ala, the speech of Allah Ta'ala. So that's the third key. The third aspect that we have to have is entering the Quran, whatever we're about to read, whatever we're about to learn, whatever it is, whether we like it, whether we don't, whether we for it or whether we are not, whether we can do it, whether we cannot, it is true. There is no doubt in it whatsoever. Fourthly, which we did today, Al-Quran is hidayah, it is guidance. It has science, history, technology, space, all sorts of things, biology, chemistry, physics, psychology, philosophy, but it is all for the purpose of hidayah, purpose of guidance. And finally, to enter into a state of taqwa when we engage with the Quran, to enter into this state, which is an incredible state, and to try to remain within it, at least for the half hour that we're engaged with the Quran, and then to practice it beyond that to maintain it. So what do we have here? We have that the first three of the keys are really conditions, okay? They are conditioning us: humility, respect, and removal of doubt. It conditions us. Then the next two, which is Al-Quran is guidance and to enter into a state of taqwa, what they do is now they begin our understanding, our journey, our guidance in the Quran. That the Quran is guidance and to enter into a state of taqwa. So hidayah coming from the Quran has many levels, which I've described to you. Hidayah at the level 1, level 2, or level 3. Taqwa has many levels. People progress. People are at different levels of taqwa. A muttaqi or a muttaqiha at one level may be doing more than a muttaqi or a muttaqiha at a lower level. But we're all on this journey. We're all trying to get to the best we can, the highest level we can, while we live our life in this world. And that's the importance here. The progress, the true, real progress that we have as human beings in this world is the development and the progression from one level of taqwa to the next. Hidayah increases taqwa. Taqwa increases hidayah. The more taqwa you have, the more you'll engage with the Quran to get more guidance. And the more guidance you're given, the more you'll increase in taqwa. So it's a wonderful circle of progress that keeps you going continuously, realizing there's no end to progression. And you continuously experience the halawa, the sweetness of iman, and the sweetness of progression, and the sweetness of nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you progress on the levels of taqwa. In our spiritual reflection, therefore, I want us to reflect upon how much, each one of us, how much you want to please Allah Ta'ala. Because that is where your growth of taqwa will be. This is where we are now watering the seedling of taqwa inside us. Reflect upon how much you want to please Allah Ta'ala. Consider what He's done for us. Consider who and what He is. Consider we did not exist except by His permission. And He chose us to exist. And He gave us life. How much do we now want to please that being who has given to us everything we have, done for us everything that we think we've done for ourselves? He did it. He gave us the tawfiq. He put the idea in our minds, and He put the notion in our hearts, and He gave us the ability and the circumstances for it to be completed, that we are where we are with all that we have under our belt, that I'm this and I'm that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected us from the situations that we can look around and see people in far worse situations than ourselves. And Allah ta'ala protected us from that and brought us upon what we have and kept us there. So how much do we want to please Him who has done everything for us? How much would we want to please that being who has done everything for us? Something to reflect upon, something to consider for ourselves, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Jazakallah khairan everybody for that. Inshallah, what we'll do now is break from here, and if anybody wish to ask any questions, then you may come back in and we can have questions and answers, inshallah.